The power of words is something we often take for granted. We use them every day, thousands of them, without truly appreciating their impact. But words are more than just sounds or symbols on a page. They're vessels of meaning that shape our reality, influence our perceptions, and have the potential to transform lives. Consider this story that beautifully illustrates the transformative power of words. In a bustling city marketplace, an elderly blind man sat with a cardboard sign that read simply, "I am blind. Please help." His hat contained only a few scattered coins as people hurried past, barely noticing him in their daily rush. One morning, a young woman named Emma, a writer for the local newspaper, passed by and dropped some coins in his hat. But instead of continuing on her way, she paused. She took his sign, flipped it over, and wrote something new before placing it back beside him. As the day progressed, something remarkable happened. The blind man's hat began filling with coins and bills. People who had previously walked past without a glance were now stopping, reading his sign, and reaching into their pockets. Later that afternoon, as Emma passed by again, the blind man recognized her footsteps and called out to her. "What did you write on my sign?" he asked curiously. "The same truth," she replied, "but with different words. Your sign said I am blind. Please help." I wrote instead, "It is a beautiful day and I cannot see it." The blind man smiled, understanding immediately. The first message stated a fact but evoked little emotion. The second created a connection. It invited people to imagine themselves in his position, to feel what he couldn't experience, and to respond with empathy rather than mere obligation. This simple story captures a profound truth. The way we frame our words matters deeply. The same reality can be described in ways that either connect or disconnect us from others. Words can build bridges of understanding or walls of indifference. They can inspire action or encourage apathy. Throughout human history, we've seen how words have sparked revolutions, both violent and peaceful. Think of Martin Luther King Jr.'s The First Have a Dream speech, which painted such a vivid picture of racial harmony that it continues to inspire generations. Or consider Winston Churchill's wartime addresses that bolstered a nation's courage during its darkest hours. These weren't just speeches, they were carefully crafted collections of words that changed the course of history. But the power of words isn't limited to grand historical moments. It manifests in our everyday interactions, in the conversations we have with loved ones, colleagues, strangers, and most importantly, ourselves. The internal dialogue we maintain, that constant stream of thoughts running through our minds, shapes our self-perception and ultimately our reality. Neuroscience has shown us that our brains respond to words in fascinating ways. Positive words like peace, love, and joy actually activate different neural pathways than negative words like hate, failure, or impossible. When we consistently use positive language, we're literally rewiring our brains to recognize opportunities rather than obstacles, to see possibilities rather than limitations. This isn't just feel-good psychology, it's backed by research. Studies have shown that people who practice positive self-talk demonstrate greater resilience in the face of challenges. They're more likely to persevere when faced with setbacks and to maintain optimism even in difficult circumstances. The words we use to describe our experiences become the lens through which we view our world. Consider how this plays out in our professional lives. A project isn't difficult, it's challenging. A mistake isn't a failure, it's a learning opportunity. These aren't just semantic differences, they represent fundamentally different approaches to the same reality. One shuts down possibilities, the other opens them up. The same principle applies to how we speak to others. When we offer criticism, the words we choose can determine whether our feedback is received as an attack or as helpful guidance. "You always mess things up closes doors. I think there's a different approach that might work better opens them." Both might address the same situation, but they create entirely different emotional responses and outcomes. Parents understand this intuitively. The words we use with children shape not just their behavior but their self-concept. Tell a child repeatedly that they're bad, and they'll begin to internalize that identity. Describe specific behaviors as problematic while affirming the child's inherent worth, and you create space for growth without damaging their self-esteem. In romantic relationships, too, words carry immense weight. Relationship researcher John Gottman has identified what he calls the 4 horsemen of relationship apocalypse: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. 3 of these 4 destructive patterns are directly related to how we use words with our partners. The couples who thrive long-term are those who learn to communicate even difficult emotions in ways that maintain connection rather than severing it. The digital age has amplified the power of words in unprecedented ways. A single tweet can reach millions within minutes. An online comment can go viral, bringing either encouragement or devastation to its recipient. Social media has democratized communication, giving everyone a platform, but it hasn't necessarily taught us to use that platform responsibly. We've seen how online harassment can lead to real-world psychological harm, how conspiracy theories can spread like wildfire through carefully chosen inflammatory language, and how political discourse can become so polarized that different groups seem to be speaking entirely different languages. The words we choose online matter, perhaps even more than those we speak face-to-face, precisely because they lack the moderating influence of physical presence and immediate feedback. But the digital realm also offers extraordinary opportunities for positive impact through words. Support communities form around shared experiences. Knowledge becomes accessible to anyone with an internet connection. Marginalized voices find platforms from which to share their stories. Words that might once have reached only a handful of people can now touch thousands or millions. This brings us to an important question. If words are so powerful, how do we harness that power constructively? How do we ensure that our words build up rather than tear down, unite rather than divide, illuminate rather than obscure? First, we must practice mindfulness about the words we use. This means pausing before we speak or write, considering not just what we want to say, but how our words might be received. It means asking ourselves, is this true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Not every thought needs to be expressed, and not every expression needs to be blunt or unfiltered. Second, we should cultivate precision in our language. Vague generalizations often lead to misunderstandings or unfair characterizations. Saying "you never listened to me" is likely both inaccurate and unhelpful. Saying "I felt unheard when you interrupted me earlier" addresses a specific behavior without making a sweeping judgment about person. Third, we can commit to using words that empower rather than diminish. This doesn't mean avoiding difficult conversations or always being positive regardless of circumstances. Rather, it means framing our communication in ways that acknowledge problems while creating pathways towards solutions. It means speaking to the best in others rather than the worst. Fourth, we should recognize that sometimes the most powerful words are those left unsaid. Silence can be a form of respect, a space we create to allow others to express themselves without interruption or judgment. Active listening, truly hearing what others say, rather than just waiting for our turn to speak, may be the most profound form of communication we can practice. Finally, we must remember that words gain their power through consistency and integrity. When our actions align with our words, we build trust. When we say what we mean and mean what we say, our words carry weight. But when we routinely contradict ourselves or fail to live up to our pronouncements, even the most eloquent language becomes empty rhetoric. Let's return to our blind man in the marketplace. The transformation in his circumstances came not from changing his reality, he remained blind, but from changing how that reality was presented to others. The young woman's rewording invited passers-by to connect with him on a human level, to see beyond his disability to their shared humanity. This is perhaps the greatest power of words, their ability to help us see through others' eyes, to bridge the gaps between our separate experiences, to create understanding where there was none before. Words can make the invisible visible, give voice to the voiceless, and transform indifference into compassion. In your own life, consider how you might reframe your challenges in ways that invite connection rather than pity, that inspire action rather than apathy. Consider how you might use words to build bridges with those who seem different from you, to heal rifts in relationships that matter, to encourage rather than criticize. The words you choose matter, not just to others, but to yourself. The stories you tell about your life shape how you experience it. Are you the helpless victim of circumstances, or the resilient protagonist overcoming obstacles? Are your challenges dead ends, or are they plot twists in a larger narrative of growth? The language you use to describe your journey influences how you navigate it. Remember too that words have a lifespan that extends far beyond their utterance. The encouragement you offer a child today may echo in their mind decades later. The thoughtful feedback you give a colleague might shape their entire career trajectory. The loving words you share with a partner create the emotional foundation of a relationship. And conversely, harsh words spoken in a moment of anger can leave scars that last a lifetime. This doesn't mean we should walk on eggshells, afraid to speak honestly or directly. Rather, it means recognizing the responsibility that comes with the gift of language. Our words are tools of immense power. They can wound or heal, discourage or inspire, divide or unite. Like the young woman in our story, we have choices about how we frame reality. We can state cold facts, or we can invite emotional connection. We can focus on what's wrong, or we can illuminate possibilities. We can use words as weapons, or we can offer them as gifts. The next time you find yourself in a difficult conversation, remember the blind man's sign. Ask yourself, how might I reframe this situation in a way that invites understanding rather than defensiveness? How might I use words to build a bridge rather than a wall? And in your internal dialogue, pay attention to the words you use with yourself. Are you your own harshest critic, or your most compassionate supporter? Do you focus on your failures, or do you acknowledge your efforts and growth? The way you speak to yourself sets the tone for how you move through the world. Words are the building blocks of thought, the currency of connection, the architecture of understanding. Use them wisely, use them kindly, and use them with awareness of their power. Because in the end, the words we choose don't just describe our world, they create it. It is indeed a beautiful day. Make sure your words help others see it.